The movie starts with a shot of a train traversing the desolate Australian desert. Inside the train, a man named Virgil is eating his meal. A woman sits across from him holding a baby in her arms. The train eventually comes to a stop at a station. Virgil gets off the train, giving the baby his leftover bread. He is on his way to a place called The Compound and has booked a car in advance, but it has not yet arrived. He walks towards a nearby shop and asks the owner for the restroom. The shop owner points him in the direction of the restroom, which is extremely dirty. While he is in the restroom, the driver of his booked car, Keith, comes by and asks him if he is waiting for the car to go to the compound. Virgil confirms, and they both set off towards Keith's car. However, as they drive along, an argument breaks out because Keith demands a higher price than initially agreed upon. After some back and forth, Virgil is forced to agree to Keith's demands. He then tries to turn on the car's AC, but Keith stops him, claiming that it will put too much strain on the engine and could cause it to stall. They continue driving, but their journey is interrupted by a flat tire. Forced to stop and change the tire, Virgil witnesses a vicious fight between two dogs. One dog is severely injured, and the other appears to be trying to kill it. Keith intervenes, chasing away the aggressor and then mercifully killing the injured dog with a rock to prevent further suffering. Virgil finds the scene unsettling, but they carry on. As night falls, they decide to stop for the night. Keith asks Virgil why he is going to the compound, as few people ever visit it. Virgil explains that he is going there to take up a job. Keith warns him that the road to the compound is long and dangerous. The next morning, they set off again, this time with Virgil driving and Keith sleeping beside him. Seeing Keith asleep, Virgil decides to crank up the AC. However, this causes the engine to stall a short while later. Keith, enraged by this, wakes up and starts fixing the engine. Virgil, meanwhile, wanders off to take a walk. He spots a shiny rock and, believing it to be gold, calls Keith to check it out. Keith takes out his lighter and tells Virgil that if the rock turns black when heated, then it's just a plain stone. However, when Keith lights the rock, it doesn't turn black, but glows even brighter, confirming its identity as gold. Excited, they both start digging in the area, but after much effort, fail to extract the gold, which seems to be in vast quantities. They try different methods to remove it, but nothing works. They spend the entire day digging but make little progress, and evening sets in. Keith gathers some pieces of wood and informs Virgil about the threat of wild dogs in the area. They light a fire and sit around it, pondering their sudden change of fortune. Keith even dances with joy. After a while, Keith suggests that they need help to extract the gold as they can't do it alone. He knows some people in town who can lend them a digging machine, but one of them needs to go to town to fetch it. Keith tells Virgil to go to town to get the digging machine. He warns Virgil that it might take some time, and since Virgil is not used to the weather there, he might not be able to stay alone. However, Virgil refuses, saying that he is new to town and doesn't know anyone. Keith asks him again, and Virgil replies that he is a strong man and can protect the gold while staying alone. The next morning, Keith gives Virgil the essentials, including a satellite phone, and tells him that it might take him 5 days to get back with the digging machine. Then Keith drives away in his pickup truck. After Keith leaves, Virgil sets up camp by tying his tent to a tree. He goes out to collect wood for the night, eats his dinner, and then hears the howling of wild dogs. He sleeps with a knife in hand. The next morning, Virgil wakes up feeling exhausted. He goes to relieve himself, but his phone rings. He tries to answer it, but misses the call. Feeling disheartened, he wanders around to cheer himself up. He spots the remains of an old airplane and contemplates using it as shelter. However, because the gold is far away, he gathers some parts of the plane and takes them back to his tent. Exhausted, he sleeps in his tent. When he wakes up, he realizes that the sun has burnt a part of his face. He sits near the gold and ponders. Using a rock, he manages to break a small piece of the gold. Just then, he receives a call from Keith. Keith informs him that there has been a slight issue with his truck's engine, which might delay the arrival of the digging machine. Virgil tells Keith that he has successfully broken a piece of gold. Keith asks him to stay at the gold site and protect it, assuring him that he will be there as soon as possible. At night, Virgil sits near the gold with a fire burning. Wild dogs try to approach him, but he wards them off with a torch. The next morning, Virgil drinks some water from his container, but then spots a snake slithering towards him. He tries to kill it, but the snake escapes. In the process, Virgil drops his water bottle and loses a significant amount of water. He returns to the airplane and extracts more parts for his shelter. Suddenly, he sees a stranger approaching. He hides inside the plane. The stranger approaches the plane and asks Virgil to come out, It's a woman who inquires about his presence there. Virgil doesn't answer. The woman offers him water and food, but Virgil refuses. Finding his behavior strange, the woman suspects he's hiding something and starts interrogating him. Frustrated, Virgil gets up to leave. The woman sees his makeshift shelter and starts destroying it, demanding that he leave. Enraged by her actions, Virgil kills her. He then takes her supplies and buries her body. Shortly after, a wild dog digs up the woman's body and starts eating it. Virgil chases it away and drags the woman's body further away. He then sets her body on fire. Tears stream down his face as he watches the body burn. The next morning, his phone rings. Keith tells him that he has found the digging machine, but its heavy weight will delay his arrival. Virgil cries upon hearing this. Keith encourages him to be patient and wait. Virgil sees a truck driving past, but his greed for the gold prevents him from leaving. He gathers some wood for the night. Suddenly, he sees a sandstorm approaching. He tries to run to his shelter, but the parts of his shelter start flying in the wind. He tries to run for cover, but a tree branch slams into his stomach. The storm subsides. Virgil wakes up to find himself buried in sand, the tree branch still lodged in his stomach. Greed overpowers him, and he forgets the pain of the branch and starts searching for the gold. After digging for a while, he finds the gold. He then pulls the branch out of his stomach, which causes a lot of blood to flow. He heats the lid of a can and tries to cauterize his wound. Then, he covers his face with sand and faints. When he regains consciousness, he sees a woman standing with a bow and arrow. She reminds him of the woman he killed. The woman gives Virgil some water and leaves. When Virgil opens his eyes again, he finds himself looking for the woman who gave him water. He thinks he must have been hallucinating. Just then, his phone rings. Keith tells him that he is nearby. After the call ends, the woman reappears and offers to help him. However, driven by greed, Virgil tells her to leave. Before leaving, the woman asks about her missing sister. She was the woman Virgil had killed. Virgil remains silent. Soon, several wild dogs surround him. He calls Keith immediately, pleading with him to come quickly. Keith says he is just about to arrive. Virgil begs him to hurry and starts crying, but Keith is hiding a short distance away, keeping an eye on him. Shortly after, the dogs start tearing Virgil apart while he remains fixated on the gold. Keith is watching this unfold. After the dogs finish with Virgil, Keith arrives in his truck, which is towing the digging machine. He sees Virgil's body and heads inside his truck to grab something. As he turns around, an arrow pierces his chest. Before he dies, Keith tries to see who shot him, but he can't see anyone. The arrow was fired by the same woman who was searching for her sister. After witnessing Virgil's actions, she became suspicious and had been watching him from a distance. The movie ends there. So guys, if you liked this video, you can support us by subscribing to the channel so we can bring you more videos like this.